people to show up.
All right, we are now recording.
So welcome to the April Cribl user group meeting. Today we have two presenters, and I think first we're going to have Shawn Cannon talk about, as it's posted in Slack, syslog-ng Cribl LogStream. And then Guilhem is going to talk about the Splunk app for monitoring Splunk data and availability that now integrates with LogStream, if I got that right. So, all right, take it away, Shawn.
All right, let me share my screen here. And hopefully share the slide right here. Let's see if I can do this.
There we go.
Nice emoji keyboard. That's
yeah,
very
no,
cool.
it works.
Yeah,
That's how I added some of this stuff on there. All right, is that better?
Looks great.
Looks good.
I like it.
All right, it's just one of the little stock things in the PowerPoint there. All right, so I didn't come up with the title of this. Somebody else put it out there, and I was like, yeah, I like it. So yeah, syslog-ng, Cribl LogStream, yes. So this is just going to go a little bit over our journey to Cribl LogStream. Let's see, just a little bit about me, just a little fun slide here. My official title is Threat Management Consultant. I work for Aflac, but we're actually the group I'm in, and one of my colleagues is on the meeting to heckle me if we need. But we are part of our Splunk team. We've got three of us that manage our Splunk environment. I am a Splunk Trust member last year and this year so just 2 years in a row, which is kind of cool. I'm not wearing the fez, just didn't want to sweat today, so I'm not wearing that. I am a Splunk certified architect as well. Still a VMware vExpert for about 9 years, with a missing year in there, but still do that just because I've used to work with VMware a lot, so I try to keep that little certification thing going. And I am the Splunk user group leader here in Atlanta, so still trying to get that going. It's been so busy, I haven't really had a chance to host a meeting in a while, but so I'm familiar with these user groups, so was definitely excited to present to this one. So a few fun facts about me too, just to throw some fun out there. I do enjoy bowling for fun, so I'm in a couple of bowling leagues. We are, even through all of COVID, we have been, we had a break for a bit, of course, because of that, but they did get everything back up and going. So I've been bowling in a couple of leagues, have fun doing that. I'd say my only real talent besides this computer junk is singing, and don't ask me to do it because I'm not going to. I'm not as good as I used to be at it, just because my voice has gotten a little bit scratchy over the years. So, but that is something I still enjoy doing. I enjoy reading a good book, mainly kind of some sci-fi dystopian type stuff. And I'm a huge Alabama Crimson Tide fan, which that is a college here in the States. For those of you that are not, I know we've got a global audience here. So, and that is college, that is American football. So, and I do have season tickets to those games too. So we try to go to those. We sell some of them and go to the big games. We just sell the other ones to people, so other people can enjoy the experience. So there's all my little icons for all that good stuff.
And that explains your username on our Slack, right?
Yeah, that explains it. Roll Tide GA, because I live in Georgia. So I don't live in Alabama. I live in the state of Georgia. So, all right. So a little bit of a background with syslog-ng, why and how it's being used today. That's been our syslog collector of choice even before I came on at Aflac. So I've only been at Aflac a little over about 4.5 years now. Of course, that's being used to bring data into Splunk from networking devices, web logging apps, you name it. That's how one of the ways we get all the stuff into Splunk. We did improve our syslog-ng implementation after we attended a .conf session in 2017. And my colleague Mike that's on here really implemented a lot of the stuff they had put in that presentation. I even put a link out here. I know you can't click on it, but that's where we got all this from. And it did work great for quite a while, but one of the things that it does do with its script is when it creates the inputs, it creates one large input at the end that uses a bunch of regex. And that's how, if basically it blacklists all the stuff that we just monitored. So that way, if something new comes in that we're not monitoring, it's supposed to go into a catch-all index. So in case somebody just decided to throw something on our syslog servers we didn't know about, we would not just, lose it. I mean, it would be out there in files, but we wouldn't know what it is because we weren't monitoring for those files, right? So that started, when that regex became too large, you get this wonderful error when you restart Splunk that says, hey, this regex is too big, so it may not work anymore. So it was causing us problems because now if anybody sent anything new and didn't tell us about it beforehand, we didn't know. So it was just go into a file and we weren't monitoring for it. And of course, there are some syslog-ng file filters that we had out there that worked most of the time. And there's one that wouldn't. And we do have, at the time, we had 5 syslog servers behind a load balancer to kind of spread out that load of being able to, it was 5 heavy forwarders, Splunk heavy forwarders, and we just had syslog-ng running in the background, and Splunk would just monitor all those files as they were written. So that's how it has been working. Now, enter Cribl LogStream. And I first heard about LogStream as I was looking for, some good discussions to have at the Splunk user group meeting here in Atlanta. And so Clint said, hey, I'll do one. And he came out and gave us a demo of the product. And we were definitely interested to check it out. And it took a little bit to probably get to that point, but I was like, this is a pretty cool product. Let's look at it. So once I saw the free licenses that were out there, it's like, hey, this might be the best time for us to start looking at it as an alternative to syslog-ng. So what I did when I finally was able to put the time together to do this, I worked for about 2 to 3 months after installing it to put together all the routes and pipelines to do what we were doing with syslog-ng, as well as some of the things that Splunk was doing. I'm having Cribl do now. And we did do the master worker, which I've changed to primary worker just to, because that's the kind of the way things are going now, right? Primary worker distributed model, as we wanted some redundancy for our syslog environment. And the good news is we're able to do all this with 2 workers instead of having 5 syslog-ngs doing all this. So, and David Maislin really helped out explaining a lot of this stuff for using a pre-processing pipeline for the data as it comes in. And as I put for doing stuff, because there's a lot of things that it does in the background as the syslog data comes in. And I'll show you that as we get to that point. And here's just a quick slide that just shows you the flow of how we're doing things. It's the typical flow probably for data coming in. So I've got UDP and TCP 514 enabled as a syslog source. There's a pre-processing pipeline that will do what it can to identify the traffic for me using a lookup file. It also removes some extra header type info from the data, so it will slim down the data somewhat before it goes into Splunk. I'm not using every piece of the pipeline that David provided me, but I'll at least show you what I am using it in. And then obviously after that, you've got your routes and your pipeline. So obviously we're doing some filtering, set up some filters in the routes to route the traffic over to pipelines so we can manipulate the data and then send it over to Splunk. So we're sending it to the Splunk indexers with an SSL connection so we can get some compression out of it, all that good stuff. So that's the basics there. And yeah, and some other miscellaneous info with this. We just started to implement some of the collectors that you have out there. So we had a few scripts that used to run on some of the Splunk servers that I was able to move over as to script collectors to Cribl. And of course, I had to do some event breaks to make things work like they needed to as well. But that's just one less thing that we just had sitting out running on the Splunk servers to do. And even some REST calls I moved to Cribl for the same reasons, but also because the REST app we were using for that was on the Splunk servers, they switched to a paid model, and I didn't really want to pay for it. So we were able to move that over to let Cribl take care of it. I have done some testing with the Office 365 sources as well. I know the message trace one's not working right now, but that's a known issue. But I have been able to get some of the other ones working. I haven't fully moved everything over to it yet. Not sure if we will at this point, but it is pretty cool that it does do what the Office 365 app in Splunk did. It's pretty nice. And the biggest issue to date that I've run across is when syslog data is coming in, you can't configure event breakers on that source, on those sources. If I had raw TCP coming in, I could do that, but not if you're using syslog as a source. And the reason I have that as a problem is we get a lot of syslog from developers that have created apps. They got to log to something. They always choose to log to syslog, but their stuff's never going to follow the syslog standard. It's just not. So there's things that come in in syslog-ng. When it comes in, it's keeping all those messages together. I guess it sees it as one message, but when Cribl's getting it, it's breaking it apart because there are line feeds within these messages as they come in. So it's getting broken apart, causes problems when I try to move things off of syslog-ng for those particular products. So like I said, it's just an issue for the non-standard syslog formatted stuff that our developers like to write their apps in. And that's always going to be the case. They're not going to change the way they format their logs. They're just not going to do it. So, you know, hopefully that's something that I believe there is something in the works to hopefully help me out with that. So that's the only big thing I've run across so far. And now, before I hop into showing you some stuff in the demo real quick, does anybody have any questions before we go into that?
I had a question. So you're saying your custom app development, for their logging, they write to syslog rather than to a local file than you're ingesting?
Yeah, in most cases, that's what they do. We have a whole mix. I mean, some of the developers applications, they'll write to a file that we just ingest with Splunk. Some want to send a syslog, some even send a heck. So there's not really a standard that all of them do, depending on the application. Because some of the things they're doing are coming from a mainframe, and that's just easier to send to a syslog destination versus, you know, other methods. So it's a hodgepodge of stuff. We've kind of got our hands in all of that stuff on the Splunk side. So unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do to, you know, get them standardized on one particular thing or another.
Okay, thanks.
All right, well, let's do this. Let me exit out of here and I'll just go through real quick just to kind of show you how we have things set up. There's certain things I probably won't be able to show just to make sure I don't have any PII data out there, but that's fine. We are running the latest version. I did get that upgraded probably a couple of weeks ago. And like I said, I'm running a master node, and actually I have 3 workers. I told you I had 2, but only 2 are part of my load balancer for syslog coming in. We are in the progress of moving things to AWS. So I have an AWS collector out, node out there just to collect the data from it. So they don't have to send all that data across the wire. We can at least get it to come to Cribl first, send it back to us SSL, so it'll be compressed somewhat to save on our egress charges. Eventually, all of our stuff's going to be in AWS, at least on the Splunk side, so I won't have to worry about that anymore. But regardless, I mean, I needed to have a collector that's just for that syslog out there. So that's why we've got 3 of them out there. I mentioned a pre-processing pipeline, and I just wanted to kind of show you that in the knowledge. One of the knowledge things that it uses is a syslog netmask lookup CSV. This is where I can put in like host names and what I want the index and source type, those kind of things to be. Nothing critical that I'm showing here. It's just some IPs and indexes, and basically any hosts that match any of this. I'm doing a regex match for these. It'll apply the right index and source type to the data. And if I had source, it would do that as well as the data is coming in via that pipeline. And that pipeline, I'll show you that real quick as well. So I really want to show you a different option after this. But this, like I said, this was provided, it says Michael Donnelly, but I actually was provided this by David Maislin. But it basically does all sorts of stuff. You can have it check your data. This one was always giving us syslog fail most of the time if the data didn't match. This was something that says, hey, if the syslog data doesn't match the known syslog formats, it gives you a syslog fail internal an internal field, and if it didn't match it, it could drop it. And I don't want to drop any data. We want to keep the data. So I just basically turned all that off. It does do an eval to give you some things to calculate the raw length, input ID, and if the app name is out there, it'll have that. But the biggest thing I use this for is really for setting the metadata. I believe it was, I'm trying to remember which one it is because there's so much to this thing. I am losing severity name and facility name. I'm just doing the severity and facility. I am dropping the part of it here. I'm dropping one of these. I'm trying to remember which one it is. Yeah, I'm removing severity and facility and just keeping name and severity name and facility name. You could drop both if you wanted to. This is because this is hope one of this one is really to kind of clean up, get rid of what you don't want, so you can have less data going into Splunk. Try to save on that license cost. I'm not using every single bit of it though. But the main thing it's getting used for is, I'm trying to remember which one it does it from. I think it's in here. Yeah, you got the lookups. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. You'll have a lookup to where if index and source type don't exist, it's going to go look at this syslog netmask lookup to try to identify and match the host. If the host field matches the data in the lookup, then it'll assign the source, index, source type. That's what basically the syslog things doing for me. Let's see, what I really wanted to show you in this, of course, everybody does Cribl differently. This is just the way I went through to do this for all the different things that we bring in. I've got probably, what is it, 30, 40, about 50 routes out here. Some of these I could probably combine together if I wanted to, but just for simplicity going through it, this is what I did. So we might still have some Symantec stuff coming in, and I've got, of course, filters for all these things. So that way I can send them to pipelines to do more stuff to it. And then at the very bottom, I've got my default send to Splunk, which is going to basically send everything to that catch-all index. If it doesn't match any of this, it's going to go to catch-all, so I can look at it and see what was this supposed to be. So then I can come back to Cribl and fill all that information in. So next time as it comes through, it's going to get sent to the right place. The biggest thing I wanted to show you, which I thought was cool, and I've actually got it up on my little test box over here because it's this is some dev data I can use to show you. We have a pipeline that I have created that David Mason to help me with this somewhat as well. This data, I'll show this to you because it's really interesting. I'll just tell you about some of these logs. This is got not only regular data in it, but also JSON mixed in the middle of it. So it's kind of horrible with the way this comes out, because all we wanted was the JSON data out of this, because that's the only thing that makes sense for what they wanted to see. So I was using Splunk to do all that before. So what we decided to do is when we went to Cribl, I was like, well, hey, let me start doing this in Cribl. Of course, I'm setting the index and stuff, but here's the good stuff here. I'm extracting out, I'll show you what this does. That's why I've got them turned off. What this will do is I'm basically removing this stuff here because I want it to start with the JSON. So here's a mask that basically matches from the beginning of the file, matches all this stuff and replaces it with nothing. I'll show you, it'll go away when I hit save. Boom, so now we've just got raw with the header, all that information in it, okay? And there's some stuff at the very end of this too that is not JSON at the very end of the file. So that's what the next mask option will do. Now, actually, this is changing the header to the name of request header. Sorry, I kind of jumped ahead there. So there was a header line, and it adds it'll change it to request header, which it just did. See, request header. And then also we wanted response header to be response header. So all of these regex basically is going through and matching and replacing with what I want it to be. And that's somewhere in the middle here. I'm not going to go find that one. And then we are basically going to the end of the line and replacing the very last thing with a closing bracket. So that way the JSON will actually be a real JSON formatted field. And then I'm parsing out the fields from it. I'm extracting the JSON objects to field names, and I'll show you that as well. Let me close this out. So basically, there it is. There's the request and response. I've got everything expanded out so I can see what's in each one of those fields. And that was all extracted from within all of the stuff that wasn't JSON. This to me is the powerful stuff that we were doing some of this in Splunk, but to be able to do this in Cribl, and then before I even sent it to Splunk is awesome to me. I did have a timestamp that needed to be set because it is one of these fields that's in here. So what I did is I used an auto timestamp to look at this source field to set that as my time. So I'll do that so you can see that get applied. And once it decides to run, it's in here. So yep, I see the time has changed. It's changed to whatever was in that field. And then I'm also, after that, one of the things we're having to do, and this is, I think, one of the ones that I think that David Mason helped me with, and then at the bottom, we're doing a miscellaneous. I don't know what all the expressions do yet. I'm still learning this, so that's why I had him help me with that. We did a miscellaneous zip of the header name and header value. Let me turn that one on and see what this does, because I don't even remember what it does. I just know it works. And I can't see what it did, but that's okay. Let me show you the cool part of it was at the bottom of this. You've got, this is what I needed to do is all this stuff here. I just wanted to be combined back up into raw. I don't want to be able to, I don't really need it to be expanded out here because it'd be in JSON when Splunk gets it, it's going to index it and extract it as JSON anyway. So I don't really have to send it that way. So what I'm doing is I'm combining, we're doing a stringified JSON of the headers field. So let me do that. I cannot remember if it's going to show me what it's going to do over here or not. Should have tested this before we did this, huh? Then doing a regex extract to basically, and this is what David put, cool magic regex to create key value pairs. I love it. So basically I'm taking the header name and getting a key from that header value and another value. I know what this was for. We basically had all these values, and I need to find it because I need to show you what I'm talking about. I know it's in one of these. I got to find it because this is a good one. That's why I want to see it. I want you to see it. Goodness, like I said, I wasn't really prepared here. All right, I'm not gonna.
That's how we know it's a real demo.
Yeah, it is. It's great. It's great, right? I wish I could find where it was because we basically had all these fields that were not together, right? It'd be like the value, all the values were in one JSON string, or the header or the field names, but all the values were separated from it. So what all these are going to do is extract those out and combine them back together. So that way we had it in a format that our fraud team, as they're looking through this stuff, it really helps them out to be able to find all that. So I'm extracting that out, but then we're serializing these fields and then overriding all of the request payload device headers. That's where I was looking for, device headers. I don't know why this one does not have it. Not every field has the headers. I really hope I could find one.
Open a feature request to have a search box here.
Yeah, really. Oh goodness. Yeah, I know all this data that I've got out there doesn't necessarily have all these fields to be able to show what I was hoping to show, but that's all right. Let me turn this on anyway. So that basically combines, gets those fields out and combines them in to the headers field. And then this one does the let's see, convert it. Now we're converting it back to JSON. So we basically, what this was doing is it was going to extract it down into fields. And then actually here, no, that's not one. I was really hoping I had one out here to show, but I don't. This test data didn't have it. But then we're basically, after I've extracted those out into regular fields, we're going to put it all back into JSON format, which is what this eval does. And then we're going to serialize that back into raw, because that's where I want this. I want the request and response fields in JSON format back into the raw. And then it's going to drop any fields I don't need after that. I don't really, basically I'm only going to keep, I only want to keep the time field. I always keep the Cribl field, host, index, source type, raw, and then request response. I don't care about anything else. Any other field that I might have extracted, it's going to drop it out. This piece at the bottom, I was not able to do in Splunk at all, to be able to extract out what we needed to so it would only have what we wanted in the raw data. And as you can see, for the raw data now, I can actually expand all of it out and see it the way I wanted to see it. And that's all the raw has, is the JSON data. It doesn't have any of the other stuff anymore. So this test data doesn't really show all the stuff certain things getting dropped, I don't think. So that's the thing about grabbing test data. Sometimes doesn't have everything you want to show. But as you can see, I did also group these together. So I do like the grouping thing, stuff that's common to what I'm trying to do. I can group all that together. You can turn it all off at once if you want, or you can just turn them off one at a time. So that was one of the main things I really wanted to show everybody. And to me, that's the power of Cribl for me, is doing all this stuff that were certain things that I couldn't do in Splunk that this is letting me do. I know a lot of people are going to use Cribl to try to, lower, decrease what they're sending to Splunk, right? You want to try to, if you can pull out stuff you don't need and make the data smaller where it gets to Splunk, it's going to help with your license, right? That's one of the big use cases. We don't really want to lose a lot of our raw data for most of our stuff, because for compliance reasons, they don't really want it touched. They want to see everything out there. It's only certain things. If we were already manipulating in Splunk to begin with to only show what we want, that's the stuff I'm going through and doing this kind of stuff with. So, but basically, just to summarize it, I mean, we've pretty much got, we still got some ways to go, because all of our network devices haven't been moved over yet. But as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of different kind of products that we've got out there that are either getting applied an index by using those lookup files, or I'm just looking for matches in the data itself. So like, that was one example. Like with this one, I'm just doing a source match. If these sources are there, it's going to apply what's in the pipeline before it sends to Splunk. So I definitely got a combination of things. Whatever I can identify through a lookup file I'm doing. If I can't, I'll just look at the raw data somewhere, find my match, and then we'll get it applied. So that's really about it. Anybody have any questions or want to see something else in here while we're in it? Mike, you heckle it all? I mean, it's okay if you do.
That's really cool.
Shawn, I had used that regex in Splunk to gather out the field names from XML that was surrounding values.
Yeah.
It's a really cool regex.
Yep.
And I never remember that it's there.
Yep. It's good stuff.
Can I ask, sorry, can I ask a real noob kind of dumb question? Is that okay, Shawn?
I don't think anything's dumb, so go ahead.
Oh, no, it is. I mean, you've got all these fields like _raw, right, in Cribl, but how does that relate to the _raw in Splunk, right? I mean, are you speaking the Splunk to Splunk protocol coming out the back of this? Are you populating actual Splunk fields in the Splunk?
You can. Matter of fact, let me see if I can do one of these real quick. I've already got stuff captured here. Let me just go to one of my pipelines and I'll just pick something I know is not going to have anything that doesn't really matter too much. Let's just look at this one. We'll go to my F5 pipeline. Where am I? I'm already in pipelines. There we go. So this one I didn't really have to do. Normally in some of these I can set the index to this stuff, but these were getting identified through my lookups. Basically, raw is basically what would be written as raw into Splunk. I mean, that's what's going to get written into Splunk. Anything in raw is what it's going to write as the data in Splunk. But anything that's here, like host, that's going to be written, already extracted out as a field, even though Splunk would probably do that anyway. It's already happening here. So it's basically sending the data cooked over to Splunk. So you've got your host already set, your index is already set, your source type is already set. If I was doing a lot of field extractions with this stuff, then it would even show you all of those, and those would already be extracted and indexed into Splunk as those fields if I chose to do so. In this particular test data I've got, I don't think I had anything that would do that because I do have some extracts to extract out the host from these things. I just don't have I don't think I picked a good sample file to show you. This might be a better one. Nah, yeah, it just depends on the data I've got out here. Sometimes I don't have a decent one to show you on that, but basically, yeah, whatever's raw is going to get written to Splunk as the data. That's what Splunk's going to see it as. But yeah, any other field that's not an underscore, like underscore raw is good, but anything underscore is a Cribl internal field. That's not going to get written to Splunk. But anything else that you have specified by default out there in your pipelines or your routes or whatever, actually in your pipelines or however you're setting your index and source type and source and everything, those are going to be fields that are going to be sent to Splunk as part of this data. It'll send the raw, it'll send the host, it'll send whatever you've got specified out there.
Okay, that's cool. I know because it's probably the first time I've ever seen something that is not Splunk sending cooked data. I thought only Splunk, really, up to now I've only seen Splunk cooked data, but it looks like Cribl can do that. Maybe other things like NiFi can do that as well. I don't know, but it's just for me that's a first. That's a really nice deep integration there. So seamless. Yeah, good to see.
Yep.
Thanks for that, Shawn.
Good stuff. So anybody else have anything they want to see? So we've got somebody else who needs to present. I'm taking up a lot of time. All right, I guess we're good. I will go ahead and stop sharing so we can move on to the next person here.
Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem at all.
Thank you, Shawn.
Just so there's no pressure if we run out of time and people have to drop. Rachel, do you want to grab that current attendees for the raffle like we did last time?
Yeah, do you want to do the raffle at the end? Okay.
I figure
I will take a screenshot of the current set of participants so that if you have to go to another meeting, you will still be included. and I'll reach out to you on the Slack. Okay, cool.
Thank you. All right, let's hear about the Splunk monitoring app then. Take it away. For the monitoring Splunk.
Okay, so I can go ahead, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, let me share my screen. Right, so you should all see my screen right now. Let me just get rid of that. Very quickly, I didn't do, well, that's not what I wanted to do. There you go. So very quickly, my talk is about TrackME. So TrackME is a Splunk application for monitoring Splunk data, latency, quality at scale. I am Guilhem Marchand. I'm part of Splunk Professional Services with Optimis. We're based in the UK, in EMEA, and Germany and France too. So that's my very first talk about Cribl. So I'm purely a Splunk person, so apologize if I say any kind of mistake about Cribl. Well, I can't go to the next guy. Sorry. About me very quickly, right? I'm French. I'm living in the UK. I don't drink tea. I know other person French like me drinking a lot of tea. I'm not doing that now. I'm actively Splunking since 9 years. Something like that. I don't have a date explicitly in mind, but that's ish the case. I'm part of Splunk Trust MVP since for the past 3 years. Very honored about that. So I said that I'm part of Splunk Professional Services in EMEA as a partner with Optimis. I'm actively developing Splunk apps. Well, I'm not watching too much for TV. When I don't know what to do, I'm Splunking. That's what I like to do. I love pizzas. Well, I was supposed to put something about me perhaps, so I did. So very quickly, what is TrackME? So TrackME is a Splunk automated tracking system to provide the greatest value in a very easy way for Splunk customers to track basically the big KPIs you need to care about. Do you have your data? Is it late? And those kind of things. What about the quality and so forth? That said like this seems to be very simplistic. That is nothing like something simple. So is it just a Splunk app? Yeah, this is a Splunk app, but this is a very big Splunk application that has been very seriously developed around real world use cases. So it's designed to be used by real people on a daily basis. That needs to be ensuring that the platform, the environments are working as they should. So TrackME automatically discovers and monitors all kind of Splunk data sources, host metrics, all this kind of stuff. We're working on latency, we're working on quality. There are lots of very advanced features like data sampling, even formal recognition, outliers detection, those kind of things. Everything is designed to work flawlessly. What about Cribl? So we're talking about Cribl. So TrackME is now, I would say, easily integrable with Cribl. So it's kind of very easy. It's a click button, and we get basically TrackME acting only like if we would be working with Cribl. So I'll show you that in a minute. It's very easy to do. So I basically say that, yeah, TrackME so has lots of very advanced features, many features in the app. Everything is designed to be useful for the users. What does it look like? So that's a Splunk application. So you've got many advanced views. It's designed around a big UI, basically, which is providing you all the inputs you need. So this is what it looks like in short. I'm going to show that right now. Where you can find it, well, that's a Splunk application. So of course you can find it in Splunk base, and you've got good documentation. So a very high level of documentation is available on the app. So it's seriously documented, and it's seriously used by many customers nowadays. The specific Cribl LogStream integration use case. So you have a documentation that is dedicated to that task, and I'm gonna go ahead. So I didn't do like lots of slides. I prefer to do a quick demo. So let's make that happen right now. So basically, well, this is the Splunk-based page of the app. like I said, and the documentation. So what's happening right now, I do have a Cribl LogStream running. Everything is running in Docker. So Splunk is running in Docker. Cribl, I do have I've got a Docker, an event engine running Docker, which is streaming data to an HF and all kind of clients, etc., etc. So that's a little bit to represent what that would be like in a real environment. I do have a few pipelines, a few routes. So with some stuff happening, etc. So I'm going to try to show you a few examples of what TrackME is looking like. So this is what the application look like when you open it. So that's the main screen of TrackME, the main UI. What we're going to start with, so before I go deeper in the app and what it does and how it does it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the Cribl LogStream integration right now and talk about that very quickly. So what's happening basically, TrackME, the way TrackME is working. So TrackME is working by default on the first concept, which is called data sources. So that's basically the conception of data as you would call it, pipeline, basically in Cribl. So that's basically by default representing an index and a source type. So that's nothing more than the combination of an index and a source type. From the Cribl point of view, that doesn't necessarily make sense. If we take an example, so as you can see, I've got a few indexes, I've got a few source type, which are all going to Splunk. This one, for example, so that's the way TrackME is working, as you can see. So you basically click and you get different views. So that's all model windows acting very easily. Or you can change things and you can do all the stuff you need to do. So this, for example, is not necessarily something which is going to be very representative from what you're interested in. From a TrackME point of view, from a Splunk point of view, and from a Cribl point of view, what you are interested in is understanding what is the path of the data. Am I monitoring properly the path of a given data source? Maybe that's like a TCP input, whatever. I don't care about that. That's not really the question. What we want to make sure is that we are monitoring everything correctly. So if I take the example of this pan traffic, as you can see, which is all going into the same index, but I do have different companies. So that's, let's say, that's multiple companies, that's different path, different networks, different path of failures, and etc. By default, with TrackME, without the LogStream integration, everything would be handling as one. So that's obviously wrong, because if I'm failing to ingest one company, let's say this company has an issue, this data source is a unique data source, and that shouldn't be taken into a single bucket like it is by default. So that's not a problem. You go very easily. So you have a view. I'm clicking on TrackME, manage and configure, and you have a magic button to activate the Cribl mode. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Then I'm going to visit the collection right now. So what it's doing is basically configuring TrackME to listen to Cribl some kind of way. I'm going to go ahead and just refresh this very quickly. So TrackME is working with metadata using lots of t-stats things, etc., etc. So it's very easy and it's very scalable, right? It's very scalable. It doesn't care about the volume. You can work with very, very large environments with no problem. So as you can see, the things are now very, very different. So let's say I'm gonna and have a look at my network traffic thing I was looking at earlier. So basically what's happening is this will be, well, apologize with my poor, come on, baby. It's coming. Right, so as you can see, what's happening is that TrackME will automatically be using a metadata, which is being sent by Cribl automatically, which is the field called Cribl pipe, right? So we're going to use that, and we will be segmenting, we will be splitting basically the data sources automatically using the Cribl pipe. So as you can see, for example, I may have, well, that's apparently not the case right now. Well, I do have it. Okay, so I've got a processing pipeline as well, which is attached to the Cribl root, right? So that doesn't kind of make sense. So I want to remove that, and I'll show you how it works. But that's basically what is interesting now. So TrackME, starting from now, will be considering automatically any new data source that I will be adding to Cribl. Anything that will be added by Cribl will be automatically handled by TrackME and discovered with the true pipeline. I don't even have to care about that anymore. TrackME does it for you because Cribl does it for you. That specific field I'm talking about is the Cribl_pipe metadata, which, well, I'm not going to teach you Cribl. I'm too young on Cribl for that, but that's basically what we care about. So this is a metadata, as you can see. And I'm going to simply be recycling that information back in TrackME to get the benefit from the great design in Cribl. And this is giving me the perfect picture. And I know that if I do have an issue on this data source, I can link that to Cribl very easily now. So that's basically how the Cribl LogStream integration works from the Splunk point of view. It's nothing more than that, right? Nothing more than that, but that's very, very, very efficient, and that's doing what I need to do. So one first thing you will do from that point of view, I want to get rid of everything that is linked to my pre-processing pipeline, because this is just an additional information. So basically, as you can see maybe there, yeah, so you can see that's a multi-value field, right? So if you do have a pre-processing pipeline, it will appear in addition with the real pipeline. The only pipeline I'm caring about is the code design, and this one, and I do not want to create two data sources for the same guy. Right, so very easily, you've got allow list and block list features. So I can block list using regular expression, and I'm gonna go ahead and just say I don't want to show anything that is linked to the Splunk_reduced metadata. I'm adding this guy, and that's just is working fine. It will be working fine. I think my container is getting lots of attraction. So that's basically the way it works, right? Now, from that point of view, we start to be talking more about the features of the application itself, but that's very, very interesting. So because we are not in a Splunk user group, well, we are in a Cribl user group, so I'm going to try to keep focus as well on Cribl stuff, and I'm going to go with one example of one feature. So let's take this very specific data source, and I'm going to explain you very quickly how it works. I'll start by creating a new object in TrackME. So I'll be using TrackME directly, the UI, to create a new alert, right? This new alert is basically automatically designed to be used by TrackME directly with the right language, the right options, etc. You've got now as well even alert actions, which will be handled automatically. So TrackME is pushing a REST API. So if you go in the doc, you will see the REST API. So there is basically all of a full REST API, which you can integrate with, and you can do lots of very fancy, very advanced things very easily, as well from the inside and from the outside. So if you're using Phantom, if you're using whatever kind of automation system, or even in Splunk, and this is what we're doing as well, right? So I'm going to create this guy, or I want you to do something first. Let me just edit that again. So it didn't trigger anything yet, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Let me just edit to have something a bit more aggressive in terms of schedule. Okay, so let me go back to TrackME. So there is a cool feature which is called that. Well, there are lots of cool features in TrackME. All features are cool in TrackME. One very cool feature is called data sampling and even format recognition. So let's go ahead and take one example from Cribl directly, right? So you have what you call the mask function, which is used to basically anonymize some kind of data. So I do have an example right there. Okay, let's say this is the guy. So basically this data, as you will see right now, is having some form of things, well, you certainly do not want to show. And I do have already in my pipeline configured something to replace those information, well, not those information, but those guys of information. So let me show you that in Cribl very quickly. So this is my pipeline right there. So basically I do have a mask function, which is going to be, I think if I do that, that should work. Never remember it. Well, I can do the capture. And for the pre-processing. So basically what I'm generating events, and those events I'm supposed to get an anonymization of those credit card numbers. So let's say I'm talking about credit card number. That's a simplistic example, but the purpose is to demonstrate what you can do with TrackME very easily. So let's assume the use case. So I'm following the Cribl documentation because I do have sensitive PY information in this data source. So I want to go ahead and I want to make sure that this information is being replaced by the mask function. But let's say bad things happen, shits happen, right? So I'm not very well woke up this morning, so I didn't have enough coffee. I'm not drinking tea, I said that earlier, but I didn't have any coffee and I messed up something, right? Well, to make that very easy, I'm just gonna go ahead and disable the mask function, right? So starting from here, because I did a change, I didn't pay attention, whatever happened, something bad happened in Cribl, for some reason, what I was assuming to be happening is not happening anymore, and my sensitive information is now back on track, right? With TrackME, you can create stuff very easily. So if you go into data sampling, which you can see are there, so you can click in that manage data sampling. So that sampling is basically the first interest of the feature is to monitor the quality of the information and recognize automatically what the format is, right? So very easily, if you have been working on Splunk for a while, etc., you know that the quality is a very common issue. So it's very important to monitor the quality properly. If you are building things for SOC, for a SIM platform and whatever, if you don't have the quality, what you're doing is probably kind of useless, right? So let's go ahead, and one of the features you can do is creating custom rules. So I'm going to create a custom rule, which will be tracking for PY data, right? So in my use case, because I've been disabling, I'm going to call that like this, and I'm going to go ahead and get this from my documentation. Sorry, use gate, and let's go ahead. This example. So this is a regular expression, which I'm going to use I should have disabled the mask function after that, right? So let's see what's happening. So basically, this will be a rule which is going to be monitoring that use case spatially, right? When I was having my MD5 function, was basically replacing this credit card number by the MD5. I disabled it by mistake, and I'm covering that use case which I don't want, right? So I can potentially, if I want to select that. So let's say I'm going to run the simulation. So what's happening is basically TrackME is simulating what's going to be the result of that, and that thing is going to be happening automatically, right? So as you can see, I've got a red cross, and TrackME is telling me something. So it's telling me, be careful. Are you sure you want to do that? I want to do that because this is what I want to do in continuous. So this will be done continuously. Normally, you don't have to do all that stuff manually, but for the demonstration purposes, I'm doing it right now. So let's clear state. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to just run the sampling engine now, right? So what's going to happen is what is happening normally. So you don't have to do that again. It's entirely normal. So something bad happened, right? Something bad happened because I've been disabling my mask function because I did a bullshit. So if I go back in the data and let's have a look at the data just very quickly. So basically what I was assuming to be replaced by something anonymized is not happening anymore. And I should have those very specific credit card number in the data, which is something I do not want, right? So that's effectively happened. My data source will be red in a second. So if I refresh, so this is now red. I'll go ahead, sorry, and I will run manually that thing to be to make the things happening very quickly. So all that stuff is automatic. Once you created the rules and etc., you can decide if you're tracking the PY data for everything. I'm tracking PY data just for that, etc. So something happened, as you can see. So TrackME has a notion as well of priority. Okay, so I can, well, this is, as you can see, a major priority in that case. So let's say I wanted to say that this was something very important. So that's something we want to track very, very carefully. So we may have done that from night priority. So basically what's happening is TrackME told me, so I do know now that there is an information, there is a bad thing which is happening, sorry. So I do have an exclusive rule that was matched. I can go ahead and use different functions. If I go in the data sampling, I can see when that happened. I can access to basically when this happened. So we store the information, so I can see that I've been catching those information, right? And that specific information. I can go ahead and view the built-in rules as well, etc., etc. Something very interesting, very fancy, which happened very recently, sorry. So if I go in the status, in the changes, sorry. So everything you're doing in TrackME is being logged as well in TrackME, so you can review what your colleagues have been doing, etc. Again, it's an application which is designed to be used by a team of people working in Splunk together. So you get lots of things which you can access, and you can understand who did what, and etc. I'm going to go ahead and just having a very quick look at the tracking alerts. So I should have had one thing. So happening. There you go. Okay, so I've got this guy happened. So there is a new feature as well, which is well, recent feature, which came in TrackME very recently, and that's called the smart status. So the smart status is basically a REST endpoint, which will be called automatically by TrackME itself, which can be called by automation from Phantom, from Times, from whatever you want, from curl. And that's basically doing some form of automation, automated investigation, even before you do it, right? So basically with that feature in TrackME automatically, what we're doing is that we are performing the REST call to smart status endpoint, and we're doing some form of automated investigation, and we will tell you what's happening, right? So this information you will recycle when you create your Jira, when you create your incident in ServiceNow, etc., and you already know what happened, right? So that's very useful to go fast in terms of investigations. You've got other kind of features. You can create your own feature. You can create your own REST call, and we do like perform, for example, acknowledgements. So that's another feature in TrackME. There are lots of things to do, right? So I'm already done, no? Am I? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and very, very quickly to some more big steps. So as you can see, you can acknowledge the alerts. So this will be silencing the alert for a while and those kind of things, etc., etc. I wanted to go ahead with some of the very, very important features as well. So we want to track latency. We want to track performances. I think the other day, my customer was talking to Cribl people, and some people were basically telling him, you don't need to care about the latency. Cribl does everything in a millisecond, etc., etc. Well, that's cool, but that's absolutely not an answer. It's bullshit, right? Even if Cribl is working very, very fast, even if Cribl is really cool, and I love the project, you need to monitor the performance. You can certainly create bad things, bad regular expressions, which will be impacting the pipelines, etc. So that's not an answer. You need to do that work carefully for me. So that's what TrackME is doing for you. You've got anomaly detection. That's one of the very, very cool feature in TrackME. So basically, TrackME will automatically use some form of standard deviation calculation to calculate basically what is the usual thing that should be covered. And for example, I can do that right now. Let's say, well, obviously I don't have much data, right? So that's not very, very, very. But let's say I'm going to push with a very static thing. I'm going to say I'm expecting, sorry, to have at least 5,000 events on per 4 hours time range, right? And that should be impacting my data source as well. Well, obviously my data source is already being impacted, sorry, by the data sampling calculation, right? You've got lots of things. TrackME is like tracking and creating metrics all around about the data and etc. You get everything. Everything is being tracked. You can understand when something happened on the data, and you can go back in the past and understand all these kind of things. it will be certainly time for me to drop. I think we said kind of 30 minutes. You've got additional concepts, right? Sorry, interrupt me if we're going over the time. Very quickly, you've got additional concept. You can be monitoring things as well on a per host basis, whatever the host is. So for example, you can see Cribl. Cribl is an host like any other for me. So it's generating data. Maybe I want to be monitoring that. I want to make sure that I'm accessing to all the information. You've got metric host tracking, so we're working with the metrics. Cribl, for example, is generating metrics too. I might be monitoring the fact that I'm getting the data from Cribl, which is what you can see right now. So that's part of what TrackME does, and that's basically it. So you've got lots of things. You've got the API, you've got quality of service calculations, and so forth. Right. If you have any question, you can stop sharing, perhaps. There we go.
I feel like my hair has been blown back. That was a lot.
Yeah, that's really a lot. That's really a lot. Usually the people, they very often come back to me with TrackME and they say, well, that's cool. I can do so many things, etc. Yeah, it's been, I think, actively developed since 2 years. So yeah, it's I think it's kind of very successful, and I think it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense, and many people, they've been trying to do that over the years, and I've been just like taking the good ideas from people and we build that together from the real front. So yeah, I think it's really useful. It's really useful for the customers, and yeah, it's a very, very common that the people, they just don't know what they have. They just don't realize when the things break, and TrackME is there to help them very easily.
Yeah, the one question I had, yeah, definitely, like we're doing some of this thing more manually, but you had Cribl, and I didn't catch all of it, but the Cribl mode enabled effectively. But if some data is coming in through Cribl and some isn't, that's
a very good, yeah, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. So basically, what's going to happen is, as soon as you enable the Cribl mode, we will be creating data sources only on a per pipeline with the Cribl information. If that is not coming from Cribl, you still have a solution. Well, I think my Splunk is a little bit dying, so everything is running on my own little Mac. So you still have a solution, and that is called elastic sources, right? I didn't have the time to be talking about that because that's too much to say. But basically, you have a concept in TrackME. You can create any kind of additional data source, which will be created as an independent tracker, or you have a common tracker. So basically what you can do is create a new kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be linked to Cribl at all, right? I mean, I can do, let's say, for example, that's a network thing. I can use any kind of the languages you have in Splunk. So that can be a tstats thing, that can be a raw search, that can be from, you can monitor data models, you can monitor lookups and those kind of things. So that can be something remote. You can, for example, deploy that in the monitoring console, and you can be looking at things remotely from like such at cluster, those kind of things. Let's say, so very simplistic example. So let's say I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say, I think I had a region, or well, I'm going to do something like Linux stuff, and let's say I think it was Linux secure, and I'm going to say this is a region. So I'm not talking about Cribl at all, right? So to answer your question, I think it was, no, I forgot. I think it was like something.
But basically, kind of thinking about, if we're gradually migrating things to Cribl.
Yep, that's one option. That's one option. It's true. You can start, for example, you can go ahead and keep basically the normal way of working and start to integrate manually the Cribl stuff slowly, right? I've got my stuff out there. So, well, this is the Cribl thing, obviously, in that example, but right. Okay, so I've got my region, like region EMEA, right? Okay, I'm going to go back out there. I'm going to say that. So let's say I'm going to call that Linux _ EMEA. And I'm going to say this is Linux secure. Let's say I'm going to call that hybrid. It's just for explanation. That's typo, we don't care. So that's basically creating a new data source manually, right? I'm going to create that like this, and this will be just automatically integrated with TrackME with the right language, the right expectations from the app. I'm going to go ahead now and find it. So basically, to answer to your question, you could be having a hybrid way of working in TrackME very easily. It's true that if you enable the Cribl mode, then you will be only seeing which are coming. Well, I don't know where my stuff is, but it must be somewhere. Okay. Well, it's obviously working, but that's the way you could be answering to that question, right? It must be somewhere. I don't know what I did. I must have done some kind of mistake somewhere. But yeah, well, that should be there. Maybe I did. I certainly did a mistake at some point, right? But yeah, anyway, that's one of the way you could be handling that. What did I do? Oh, that's not there. Blah 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 blah. Linux, hybrid, data index.
Guilhem, you call it network. Is the first one in the table.
I call that
it's
network.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. You know, it's because I'm French, so.
You're flying through this. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But the problem is, I've been living in the UK for the past, well, 5 years now. But when I'm doing demo, I still need to think about what I'm saying, and I'm very soft. I'm soft on doing mistakes in the same time. It's always kind of funny, right? So that's basically indeed my data source, as you can see, and it's automatically it's very transparently integrated in Splunk. So you don't even have to know that this is not a natural, if you like, thing, right? The application does everything for you. It's just happened like it does for anything. You still have like the data sampling, which didn't run yet. I can run it manually right now. Let's do that and go with. So that's one of the greatest features that's true in TrackME. You've got lots of stuff like around, a low list and block list, I said it, but lagging classes, for example. So if you want to create stuff, so let's say, for example, anything that is like my source type, like my pan traffic. So this is, let's say, something very important. I don't want to accept like anything that is more late than 15 minutes, for example. I want to apply that for everyone. So this will be basically a policy. So that's policy which is happening right now. So everything that will be matching those criteria will be basically honoring those kind of configuration. So I didn't talk really about the latency, the KPIs that TrackME is working with, because I wanted to be more talking about this kind of information. But as you can see, for example, basically what I'm doing is that we get two big KPIs that we are monitoring, I think, in data processing quality, like in performance, sorry. So basically, what TrackME is looking at is essentially two KPIs. So that's the delta between now when the trackers, when the schedule search, which are handling everything, are running. So that's the delta between now and the latest underscore time that is available in my data. And as well, what I'm calling the ingest lag. So that's basically the real latency, the difference between the Splunk underscore index time and the Splunk underscore time. So that's basically how long it took for me to get that information. And I think someone, yeah, my customer was having, by the way, an interesting question about that. Should we be like having a third information coming from Cribl, which would tell us basically how long Cribl required to basically process the event, right? So I think that was a useful information. So that might be something I'm going to work in the future around Cribl to get perhaps more information from Cribl and a better like integration like. So yeah, so that's this kind of information. You've got policies around tags, so you can create policies around tags, which is very useful, for example, because you can create specific alerting. So let's say I'm going to say, so you get regular expressions which are automatically, so let's say I'm going to say this is net, this is pan, and this is important, whatever, this is SIM, for example, let's say this is SIM. So what it's going to do is basically creating automatically tags, which you can recycle in the UI. So So I'm going to go ahead and just run that very quickly. And as you will see in a second, so basically what's going to happen is I will have tags available, well, very quickly, as soon as my little container is working fine. So for example, I'm going to have tags so I can filter on everything that is matching those information. Those information will be as well available in the UI, as you can see. And very, very fancy, I can create new alerts. And let's say I'm interested in monitoring only those tags. So anything if it comes, well, should have been going.
Uh-oh, I think you're
Good point. Okay,
you're freezing up a bit.
well,
But actually,
right. Okay, so maybe my container. Well, that's a demo, right? You can create a custom alert, which would be like looking at that and etc. I think I'm freezing. Yeah.
yes, we're freezing. But I think we're out of
Yeah.
time.
Doing okay. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it was very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Sorry.
A lot of features, for sure. I'll be pointing some people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Further. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Well,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Right. It's raffle time. I think we had a
Thank
couple
you.
of people you said join in, so
Yeah, we had at least one person drop, and then we had a couple people join. So I'm going to add them to my list of. But we've got a couple things. We have a few more of those awesome hoodies left. Although I don't know how many sizes we have, so there'll be a backup option. And then the second thing that we have is new, which is a pair of rocks glasses and coasters that have the Cribl logo on them. And they're pretty nice. We got those sent to us as part of a quarterly kickoff or all hands meeting a month or two ago, and there's still a few left. So I've snagged them to offer to you.
So how many sided die do I need?
You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13.
Well, okay then, 20 it is. Although I could go get my DCC dice. I think it has a 13-sided die there.
Yeah, there is one for DCC. You're right. You're correct.
All right, and I
Dungeon
get
Call Classics, by the way,
Yeah.
everybody.
and I have my my auditor here.
Already
So I think-
unhappy, as I can tell.
All right, I don't want to keep moving the camera, so let's see how all this works. 4. I don't know. If you
4.
can see it from there, but
2.
the goat confirms. I don't
That
know what
is-
that maps to anyway.
That is Gov. Gov, you are the winner of a hoodie. If you don't already have one, message me on the community Slack, and I'll get that sent out to you.
Great, thank you.
Yay, Gov.
And were there limited sizes for those? Did you say?
Yeah, I don't know what they are.
you don't know
so
what they
I'll work
are,
it
okay.
out with the winners and directs. So let's go for 2 hoodies and 1 set of the glasses.
All right.
So this is the second hoodie.
10.
10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is Paul Adams. Uh-oh, he's probably gone. I think he had to leave, but I will.
I'm
message-
here. I'm
I
here.
think he's there.
Oh, there you are. Okay, message me on
Yeah.
on the community Slack, and I'll get your size and mailing address and get you a hoodie, assuming they come in your size. I have no idea at this point. We just have a few left. All right, and then the set of glasses, I should have brought them up to show you, but they're nice.
That's all right. 15, we're re-rolling. 5.
5. That is Guilhem Marchand.
All right.
So you won the glasses. Message me on the Slack,
Awesome.
and I will arrange to have them mailed to you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Cool, yay!
Woohoo!
Wow, we certainly went over today. But it was lovely to have you all, and we're back on again in a month. And if anybody has topics they want to bring up for next time,
Yeah, I
let
don't think we have
Eugene
anything
know.
lined up.
Yeah, and we just thanks to Victor, we just procured a community Zoom account, so the Zoom link is going to be changing, but we'll send that out in an email. Woohoo, yeah, Eugene is drunk with power. Gonna have access to it. All right, folks.
All the power.
Anything anybody want to talk about? I know we're running really late here. Going once, going twice. All right, I'll
Thank you
return
to all
you.
the
Oh, there's
presenters.
chats here. I think,
Oh yeah, there are chats. I was just looking it up.
yeah, it looks like cool. All right, see you all in chat form.
Thanks for the project.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye,
you. Bye.
everyone.
Care.
End the recording.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.